This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. The weekly newspaper Real Change is going through some real change. The price is doubling. We're also running through messages from you, the people, in our Monday mailbag. But first, Seattle is expecting hundreds of thousands of visitors for the World Cup in just a few weeks, and all of those people, well, they're going to need a place to use a bathroom. Independent journalist Guy Oron has been digging into city data on public restrooms and is here to discuss. Guy, welcome. I promise I'll try and keep the bathroom jokes to a minimum.
Hi, great to be here.
I also have Eula Bynoe, Eula the doula, multi-generational Seattle resident. Welcome, Eula.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
So, Guy, you've been working on this project. You've been mapping public bathrooms. I'm really curious to know what trends you're seeing so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the World Cup, this issue is going to be a lot more salient, but anyone who's been in Seattle will know that downtown has lacked a lot of bathrooms for years now. And I was interested in seeing if there's a way to measure some of these issues. And so I looked through about 4.5 years worth of complaints to the city. And using this data set, we could see that certain areas like downtown especially, but also Capitol Hill, Ballard, and Soto have a lot of people like writing in about issues with waste and public sanitation. And so I think this really shows some interesting intersections in terms of both what the general public needs and also especially needs for folks who are unsheltered and unhoused, and how there is a big gap right now in terms of access to hygiene facilities.
Wait, so where are these complaints coming from?
Through a city public records request. People submit them through the Find It, Fix It app, or they could even write to the Customer Service Bureau, fill out a web form. So there's a number of ways people can complain to the city. And then the city has a neat way of kind of collating all these thousands of complaints about everything from potholes to issues of sanitation or encampments, other notable things that people might want to complain about to the city.
Everything.
Yeah, I feel like the Find It, Fix It app is really just a catch-all for so many different things. I mean, like, are people really using that app or writing in to just be like, I was downtown and I'm mad there wasn't a place for me to go to the bathroom?
I would say a lot of it, I was looking at when people reported like urine or, poop, like it's not the most sexy thing to talk about, but I think it was an interesting way to see another perspective. Like, can we measure in numbers like this issue and the scale of this issue? I think it is obviously a very noisy data set with so many different people complaining about different things. And you need to differentiate between like dog poop versus human feces and
whether it just looks bad versus it's like not functioning at all. Because that's really the question most of the time is it functioning? It can have pee around it, but can I pee in it? But if I get in there and I can't even use the toilet, like, shut it down.
Yeah, so I know the city has been thinking about this ahead of the World Cup coming to Seattle. So on Friday, Mayor Katie Wilson announced a ribbon-cutting ceremony for 4 new bathroom pods. Except instead of ribbon, they're cutting toilet paper.
Yeah, that's funny.
So she posted about it saying, we're taking a first step to delivering Seattle's #1 and #2 priority.
This whole city is just trying to be silly.
But yeah, so we discussed this issue a couple months ago on the podcast, this plan to launch these mobile restrooms in Pioneer Square and right across the street from Lumen Field. They're 4 portable restrooms that are run by a company called Throne, which you can't make this stuff up. Have you all heard about these Throne bathrooms? And
No.
Guy, I'm curious how that kind of plays into this bigger problem in our city. Like, is this going to help?
I think I've used a similar brand and, they are kind of the higher quality, a little bit better than a porta potty. So it'll be nice and hopefully it'll be durable enough to withstand the crowds. I do wonder, like, is it a drop in the bucket a little bit?
Is that a pee joke?
I'm looking at their website and I can see the pluses. Like a porta potty is so small that the fear is like touching it while you go into it. And so the Throne looks like it's larger in size. There are several photos on the website with babies coming in and out of the space because they just gotta go. It makes me wonder if they have a changing station.
I believe
in it.
they're supposed to have a changing table in there.
Okay, that matters.
Yes.
That matters a lot, actually, because,
Right.
babies go everywhere. And then it looks like it's large, and they have ramps on each one so that they're wheelchair accessible.
I believe it's supposed to be ADA accessible as well.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this company has like a bunch of mobile pods across the country already. So Orange County, Bay Area, LA, Detroit, DC. It seems like a lot of DC locations. It's solar powered. It is, like you all were saying, bigger than a honey bucket, for instance. Man, whenever I'm in a honey bucket, I am always maybe irrationally afraid that it's going to tip over or that someone is going to tip me over in it. The throne does not seem like it has this problem. The pictures you might be looking at, Eula, they have like kind of nice looking wallpaper on the inside, and they advertise that wallpaper as a form of graffiti resistant wrap. And so it's easily removable. They also have a quick peel mirror so that if people are graffitiing on the mirror, they can just take it off real quick and replace it. So it is free. The one catch about this is that you need a cell phone to access it, or you need a key card. And it seems like the city is thinking about ways to get these cards to people who might not have a cell phone. This really kind of gets at this bigger question that, Guy, I know you're interested in, which is, who are public restrooms for? Like, these are clearly for visitors to Seattle who are, maybe catching the game, going out afterwards. But we also have a population of people in the city who need access to public restrooms. It's not clear to me, like, is this for them?
It's such a thorny issue because we're talking about society as a whole. We have these class divides, and it's reflected in every level of policymaking, even our built environment. If someone is visibly homeless, will they feel judgment going to these bathrooms? Or I'm thinking of mall bathrooms. These are like kind of spaces that are maybe not fully private, they're publicly accessible, but you still have this implicit divide, like, oh, you're only supposed to go if you're a potential customer. And if you are like someone who doesn't have a house or even a shelter, like, it's really hard to look, presentable, quote unquote. The question is like, will the city extend beyond just FIFA and maybe commit to making these permanent, to expanding public bathroom use? In the city right now, there's about 100 or so park bathrooms. We do see, with the data I've looked at so far, you tend to have less complaints around areas that do have public bathrooms already available. And so I think especially in downtown, there's the highest need right now to just commit to more permanently accessible public bathrooms.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map that you pulled, Guy, of public restrooms within Seattle parks, and basically nothing's downtown.
There's a new one, though, down at the waterfront, like that they've opened right by the Great Wheel and by the aquarium. A lot of the traffic for World Cup, they want to go down that strip. They put so much money into that area, and it's really beautiful, actually. You can go from the market to like oversee the pier, and then you can walk down to the pier / the aquarium and all that kind of stuff. And there's a toilet down there now that looks really nice. I'm looking at that online right now. Like, the architects put up their own little website just about the toilet, which I'm impressed by because there are not a lot of toilets around the city at all. And I think about how the other day I was at Target downtown with my son, and he's 8 and he had to use the restroom. And I asked him to ask an attendant, and she was like, oh, it's downstairs. So then we went downstairs and asked another attendant, and they were like, oh, he can't use the restroom. I was like, but he's 8.
But
like, he's going to pee on
8.
himself. Yeah, he's going to pee on himself. And this is Target. Like, this is not some like little bitty spot with like, there's only 3 of us here. You guys have a toilet. But they told him no. They told him no, straight up. He could not use the potty. We had to get out of there.
No.
I know.
That's terrible.
I mean, I think about how even when businesses have these bathrooms, a lot of the time now there are the codes on them. And
yes.
Sometimes places are often short-staffed, or people, even if they're properly staffed, they're all busy and doing things. And I sometimes can't find a person to ask, what is a bathroom code? And so I've just started keeping a little list on my phone of the codes of places that I tend to go. But I'm curious if there's any publicly available resource to share those codes. I mean, it kind of feels like it goes against the spirit of what those folks are trying to do. But at the same time, it's a tricky balance to figure out what the right thing to do there is.
Some people abuse restrooms. Like, we have to acknowledge
true.
that. I am an abolitionist, but I don't want those people in the bathrooms. They can turn them into horror stories. And so I don't want the codes out. And I hate to say it like that. But if you don't want to, like, pee properly, wipe the seat down, like, come out within the next, in a nice 15 to 20 minute window, then, like, we've got to figure out a backup solution for some of the reasons people are using our restrooms. I wish that we had some legalized drug use spaces so that people could use those spaces over having to take over the toilets. Several years ago, we spent $5 million on toilets, and they ended up just being like spots for people to use, and they need their own spaces so that people can go potty. I mean, that's really it.
I will say, Eula, to your point about folks who don't respect the bathroom, like, that certainly does happen. Throne is doing this thing where if people basically aren't acting right, they take away your access.
Yeah.
And I guess that is why it's potentially, tied to either a key card or a phone. Like, they could actually figure out who is wilding in here.
Yes.
And how do we prevent them from doing that? According to them, it only happens 0.2% of the time, which is heartening to hear. I wonder if that's also partly because of the accountability and who it's also already weeding out by requiring this kind of access. But anyway, I could talk about bathrooms all day, but Guy, what are the next steps here?
During the campaign trail, Mayor Wilson actually talked a lot about bathrooms, and that's a change from her predecessors. She talked about maybe partnering with other institutions, businesses, and maybe they can advertise their bathrooms as, like, accessible in exchange for, like, support with cleaning or other maintenance. So there's a lot of creative solutions. Another one is zoning. New York City has recently required big developers who are, like, building new skyscrapers to include a public bathroom as well as a public plaza. So you could see, like, some zoning requirements for big developments, as well as Sound Transit and King County Metro potentially installing bathrooms in their stations. A lot of it will require some maintenance. I know there's discussions as well about, like, should we have pay to use toilets? Because they're basically non-existent in Washington. And if you want, I could talk a little bit about that history. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, I feel like that's in my mind, not a common thing in the US.
It used to be the case that we had a lot of public restrooms where, men got to pee for free in the urinals, but women had to pay to use the toilets. And understandably, activists and people were just like, this is unfair.
Yeah. Because I already can't have a job. I already can't have a credit card. I already don't have any money, and I have to inherit every penny that I have. And now I have to pee to potty. Wild. Sorry. Keep going. Yeah. That's crazy.
And so, like, now, if any toilet wants to operate for payment in Washington, they have to not only, like, require that it's equally treated cross-gender, but also they have to reserve half the stalls for free. And so it would kind of defeat the purpose of why are you paying to pee or use the bathroom when you can use it for free in the same bathroom. So the legislation right now is kind of at the state level, kind of doesn't make it as a business viable. And it could be a conversation to look at, but especially when you have, like, Apple Pay and Google Wallet, like, it could be quite feasible to make it easy to pay to use a public toilet. But at the same time, you're still reinforcing these class divides. So it's not like a perfect solution either.
Tap to pee, I think, is where we're headed potentially. Let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about the change that Real Change is going through right now. If you're in Washington and you haven't tried King Harvest hummus yet, you're missing out on a locally made favorite. Since 1977, King Harvest Hummus has been making their small batch, fresh hummus in Portland, Oregon. It's not like an average hummus. It's a thicker texture combined with bold flavors, and it creates raving fans after tasting it. Not surprising, since it's made local and fresh on the shelf. Some of our favorite flavors are roasted red pepper, jalapeno, sun-dried tomato, and of course, the classic. You can eat this healthy dip with chips, veggies, or add it to a sandwich or wrap. Or maybe you just want to eat it with a spoon. Most people buy more than one because once it's open, this healthy dip disappears fast. You've got to try it to love it. Don't miss out on expanding your snack experience with this locally made fresh dip, King Harvest Hummus. Simple, better, one dip at a time. You can find King Harvest in the refrigerated section at your local grocery store. Not one, but two members of the CityCast Seattle team have gone to Italy recently. But what if I told you you don't have to go all that way to get those vibes? You can stroll olive groves at the Durant Olive Mill, the northernmost olive mill in the US, nestled in the hills of Dundee. Just 30 miles outside of Portland, Dundee is a much shorter trip than flying all the way to Europe. And the mill is on Red Ridge Farms, where you can walk along paths lined with hazelnuts and lavender, buzzing with local bees. Taste award-winning olive oils that regularly bring home gold, and expect flavors that are bold, punchy, and seriously memorable. While you're at it, taste the Dundee Hills Pinot from one of the 40-plus nearby wineries. Visit traveldundee.com/citycast to unlock exclusive lodging deals for your stay in the Willamette Valley. The weekly newspaper Real Change has been in circulation here in Seattle since 1994. For many years, the paper cost just $1. And in 2013, they increased the price to $2. And it stayed that way until May 6th, when the paper started selling for $4. Real Change says that since 2020, newspaper printing costs have risen 74%, along with a bunch of other costs and also funding challenges, because nonprofits are really just going through it right now. Eula, have you ever bought Real Change?
I have. I totally have. My mom always bought Real Change too, like always consistently bought it. You know, she was just going to always have $2 for the newest issue. She knew the lady she was going to purchase it from. It was really like a relationship, I would say.
Yeah, you had a relationship. So I know, Guy, you worked there.
Yeah. Yeah. Many of our listeners might know that I was a reporter there for a couple of years. And so I've definitely always been a huge fan of Real Change. I've bought the paper as well. Hopefully people can recognize that it is worth the investment to support the vendors. And at the same time, like, journalism across the board is kind of being defunded. And so I'm sure Real Change had to make the hard decision of like, how do we keep the lights on? How do we keep paying our journalists? And so probably that's why they raised the price.
It's rough out there. So theoretically, this change brings in more money for vendors per issue sold. So I didn't realize before all of this exactly how it works. So vendors buy papers in bulk, and at the $2 price, they were buying them for 60 cents a piece, which means that they were earning about $1.40 per paper that they sold. Now, with this change of the price going up to $4, the vendors are buying each paper for $1.25. And so that means they will earn approximately $2.75 per paper sold. So according to Real Change, that nearly doubles the income from every sale that they make. But there's a recent Seattle Times piece where they talked to some vendors who raised concerns that they might not sell as many issues. And I don't know, I guess for me, I always just Venmo $5. And so for me, it's not a huge change, honestly.
What I liked about what you said was that the vendors would be getting more money. So knowing that like every time I purchase a paper, it's actually making a bit more of a difference in that person's pocket is really a big deal. Because $1 something feels like if you don't sell 10 papers this hour, then you should be anywhere else, which is very different than...
well, also, if these folks haven't gotten, a functional raise in... Seems like the last change was made in 2013.
Right.
Every year you're not getting a cost of living increase is really kind of taking a pay cut. And I know in journalism and journalism adjacent industries, that's just not even really a consideration, sadly, given how hard things have been. But, this seems like it could be a positive change.
Yeah.
Hopefully more people end up making more money. But, it is always a trade-off. And depending on someone's customer base, they might be more or less price sensitive.
Yeah, I'm curious about the customer base in general and like what we know about it. And I realized this all made me more curious about how vendors work. So are there set locations for vendors, or are there any limitations on like where vendors can sell? Because I realize I always see my guy outside of the Safeway. And as my team was talking about this, I realized I've never seen one outside of like, say, PCC. Are there established relationships between certain businesses and Real Change?
Yeah. So like vendors oftentimes have a post, especially vendors who sell more, they can have a guaranteed spot. And oftentimes I know Real Change facilitates a discussion with the business to make sure relations are good. A lot of businesses do appreciate a vendor being there. PCC is one of those locations where there are some vendors who sell there.
Okay.
There's some who sell outside a post office or a coffee shop, outside the library. There's various locations I know, but obviously you can always talk to Real Change staff. I'm not representing them anymore.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Eula, where were your Real Change folks?
The Safeway on Madison is closest to me. But hearing all this made me think about how a lot of times, too, my mom would make me read articles growing up. My mom was the kind of parent that would be like, I bought the Real Change, but here's an article specifically I want you to read. And I thought, I would just pray more people get into that kind of mindset that your kids don't have to read every big chapter books just because you want them to be educated. If you are grabbing a Real Change, if you see an article that could tie them into politics in the city to, community building or anything like that, ask your kids to read a little bit. Newspapers are valuable, and it's like the closest, most local journalism we usually get.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up reading the paper. I love reading the paper.
Mm-hmm.
I know the readership is often, those who buy often tend to be older and have lived in Seattle for a while. So I think hopefully this price change will raise awareness to especially newcomers to Seattle to know that Real Change is a part of the city and to almost make it like a civic duty of supporting local journalists and the vendors by buying a paper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Real Change describes its own operating principle as, quote, providing the most vulnerable people in our city with an economic opportunity and self-reliance through selling the paper. In terms of big picture solutions in a city with, skyrocketing costs and homelessness issues, what role do you guys see the paper playing?
I think it feels good to help somebody out. I had a season where I would keep $2 on me every week just to give to anyone who asks, because I felt like it was just the right thing to do to have an expendable amount just for that. But to have somebody where you can get to know them at your Safeway, speak, say hello, build a relationship, and know that this is a person who without this position, without this job, wouldn't really have access to the means that they do makes you feel good. This is a really small way to make an impact. And like you said, build a relationship with someone. Because typically a person from Real Change, they might have to live further outside of the city and have to come in in order to sell. But sometimes they're just your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
It is vital service for the city, in terms of these are folks who are actively making that street corner a better place to be, safer, warmer, facilitating social interaction. And I think in terms of some of the topics we've talked about today, I think a through line is this concept of human dignity and how whether you're working, to make your wage or, you need to address your basic vital needs, centering around dignity can unite people across divides.
Yeah.
Well, I will continue to hit up my Real Change guy outside the Safeway next time I am there. $4, probably still just Venmo him $5 because it's a nice round number.
Yeah. And he deserves it. He's working.
All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to get into our Monday mailbag. I love getting messages from our listeners and our readers. It is my favorite part of this job. Some of you all have sent us the most random stuff or some really great tips. So I wanted to do a run through for our Monday mailbag of the messages we have gotten recently. First up, last week we had the chef, food scientist, author, local Seattle celeb, Kenji Lopez Alt on the show, and I asked him what his girl dinner is. Some of you were like, Kenji, that's not a girl dinner, which fair, because he's just too much of a chef to do a true girl dinner, which I think of as eating olives and cheese over the sink or whatever. But Megan P wrote in with her girl dinner, and she says, this is what she makes, a crispy rice omelet. So you do half a cup or so of rice. She says, I use the frozen TJ rice, which Trader Joe's rice, which is a great hack, with some oil and some chili crisp, flatten in the bottom of the pan, keep the temperature low, Mix 2 to 3 eggs with some salt and pour over the rice. Add grated cheese, scallions, furikake, more chili crisp if you want. Let it sit for a while. You can put a lid on it to help cook the eggs. When you're ready, slide it out of the pan, fold it in half-ish. It usually sort of breaks, but it doesn't matter. I eat this at least once a week, especially when I need something quickly. Megan, that is genius.
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever thought to make this, but it actually kind of sounds like a rice version of a quesadilla, which is what Kenji said his girl dinner is.
Yeah.
My kids would love this. Both of my sons love rice and eggs, and I tend to take, day old rice and just crack a few eggs and scramble it in there anyways. So if I could, and some furikake gets on everything if the 8-year-old can have his way. So if I could do that, I'm down. Girl dinners are funny though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you all have a go-to girl dinner?
So, the irony of this is the other day, a friend of mine sent me money to feed another friend. She was like, she's not going to eat all day when she works. Please make sure she eats. The person I was supposed to be feeding doesn't like to be taken care of, right? So I was like, let me Google what to feed a woman. And it came up with girl dinner. And it was pretty much a charcuterie. They were like, you feed girls a charcuterie and so on and so forth. And I was like, that's not what I want to feed a person. I don't know. The idea is that you're eating something quick, fast, and in a hurry, right?
Yeah. Kind of, yeah. I feel like sometimes, especially when you're like kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, you haven't gone to the grocery store in a week or 2 or 3, and you're kind of like, what is in the pantry? What can I eat relatively quickly? Some pickles, maybe.
Right. My early 20s, all of my 20s, let's say all of my 20s into my early 30s, I was a cereal person. Like I was
that's a good, yeah.
Like, oh, Eula, you're in such great shape. It's the cereal. It's the fact that I eat cereal for 7 meals out of the week. At this age, I really do want real food. I can't even lie. I'm more likely to be the adult that gets in a car and goes on an excursion. But I also stock the fridge pretty deep with Trader Joe's frozen options. But my new favorite, all the time snack that I think is a meal is this Caesar salad dip from Trader Joe's.
Ooh.
With the garlic chips that they have. And that is just man, it's not a meal, but I'm going to eat it for lunch. Man, this isn't a meal, but I'm going to eat it for dinner. It's one of those.
Guy, do you have a girl dinner that you go to?
Actually, recently, my sister-in-law showed me this egg recipe. I think it's a Chinese one where you add equal parts egg and water, and then you microwave it to steam it. And it's actually really quick and turns out pretty good, texture-wise. So that plus rice or ramen. But I did love the crispy rice submission. I also feel like it's a little too foodie for true girl dinner. But it's
cooking an egg.
Delicious.
I can microwave an egg, but cooking an egg, some days that's a bridge too far for me. But when I'm feeling a little bit motivated, as long as it's done in 10 minutes, that's kind of what I'm looking for on a night where I really have nothing left to give. Our other mailbag item here is that a lot of folks have written in with their favorite $20 dinners. And I feel like that's a good option for when you are I don't even have it in me to pretend like I'm going to do a girl dinner. I'm just going to go full on, go out somewhere. So, okay, here are some of the places people have said. El Chupacabra on Alki. Preston A recommended that. Hallie R says Ballard's Other Coast Cafe, which I do love. There's also one in Lower Queen Anne. I like that one because it has fries, whereas I don't think Ballard's does. Lauren recommends the banh mi at Saigon Drip Cafe in Pioneer Square. Maria L recommends El Camion. That's one of my go-tos. Hannah S is blowing up my spot, which is Lucky's Pho in Fremont. I love that place. Their banh mi's are amazing. Linda J says Red Mill, the burger place. I like that Glinda H just fully cops to going to McDonald's. She just was I'm more of a Taco Bell gal myself, but
Taco time.
Sometimes Taco Time.
Taco Time has a late night happy hour now, where it's not late night, it's after dinner, where you can get some stuff at a discounted price. I forget exactly I want to say something you can get a crisp burrito for $2 after 7.
Ooh, the
I know.
Mexi Tots are.
Oh yeah, but they don't call them Mexi. Because they're that's biased towards the people that they don't make them at all.
It has nothing to do with Mexico.
At all. So they call them tater fries now.
Tater fries.
Or
okay.
tater, but not tater tots, because that's what they are, but whatever. But tots might be offending these children. Who knows?
They don't want to be called tots.
No.
The list is really long, so I'm just, you know what? We'll save the rest of the list for some other time, but I'll end with, on the same theme as local fast food, Nate W. says, Dick's Burger and Fries on Broadway, can't go wrong with a deluxe and fries.
Yeah. Where I ended up going that day to get my friend food was Wally's, like Northwest Soul Food. It's on the corner of Jackson and 23rd. It replaced what was Catfish Corner over there.
Okay.
And I got rice and beans and some chicken wings. But rice and beans are one of my like favorite, I don't want to spend any money, but I still want some soul food kind of meals, because rice and beans are bomb and they're always well priced. Like if you spend $10, you spend too much.
Agree. I'm hungry just talking about this. Guy, do you have a go-to $20 dinner?
I love the banh mi. Like, I'm thinking of Chumin tofu is one of my faves, vegan friendly.
Yes, I've heard great things
option.
about them. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one, I would say more lunch, but like Carmelo's tacos. It's really great. Tacos Chukis as well. Like, I would say like getting tacos or a burrito. There's a lot of great options. Or like maybe a falafel too. Like, those are some of my like under 20.
Yeah, I was going to say under 20, where you have the possibility of leftovers, is really the most economical answer here. Okay, y'all, I'm so hungry, so we're going to end this right here. Guy Oron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to talk to you.
Eula Scott Bynoe, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You guys were a blessing.
That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. I'm your host, Jane Sihu. Listeners, if you've got thoughts about your $20 go-to dinner, your girl dinner, or, I don't know, where you want to see a public bathroom, send us an email at seattle@citycast.fm. You know what I really want is I want like a full-on review from someone going into one of those throne bathrooms. I might just have to go do it myself, but if you've done it and you want to tell us about it, let us know. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail at 206-880-3931. Until next time, see you at Seattle. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. Also, leave us a little review. It's really helpful. And tell your friends about us. You can also get more local news and events delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter. Just go to seattle.citycast.fm. And you can find us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at CityCast Seattle. And you can watch full episodes of this show on YouTube.